Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Thursday. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as season. I got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Thursday morning, guys. Quick word, but we shall see. Keep knocking. Keep knocking. Keep knocking. Now, this word is not for everyone, of course. No recording is for everyone, but if it is for you, your spirit will alert you. Tap in. So, as you guys know, many of you guys know that waiting on the promises of God, destiny moments, things like that, that it can be very frustrating. It can be very daunting. You see certain seasons where you see a lot of fruit, and then all of a sudden you hit a standstill point, and then it picks up again, and then you get thrown back in the wilderness, and you can't figure out why you got what did you do? Why are you back in the wilderness when you thought you was really right? And if you're honest, if you're really honest with yourself, you probably have an idea why you got thrown back in the wilderness, right? Because some kind of promise you made to God that you wouldn't do something or whatever, or you would not get ahead of him, and maybe you did. Maybe there's some type of character flaw that he have to put you back in the wilderness to perfect it because it can't go. But there's so many different intricate parts of this story. But if you're not careful, the enemy will literally start having you to think that you heard God wrong, that it's never going to happen. Oh, you fool, you keep listening to God and all this stuff and all this other stuff that the enemy will literally try to put into your head. So a lot of people will literally give up on the very blessing that they know God has placed in your spirit. Not you, but this is a dream. This is a vision. This is a very profound prompting in your spirit that God has placed there, right, to have you reach through this journey that you're currently on. But because there are so many seasons, including delays, transformation, isolation, stillness, all these different seasons that we hit, there it's just not a smooth sailing ride. It would be fun if it was, but if it's not. It's a lot of pit stops along this journey. So a lot of people will get to the point where they get so frustrated because they haven't seen something manifest in a year or 2 years. I've spoken to many people who have said that they're waiting on God decades later, and they're just now starting to see doors open. They're just now in destiny moments about promises God gave them 10, 20 years ago. So here, not to exclude the time that you've waited, right? Not to say that 1 or 2 years is not enough and that's not hard, because it is. But think about people who've been waiting much longer, and they're just now seeing the manifestations of God. Again, as I always say, even as the visionary that I am, one of the most frustrating things for a visionary is God will show you the picture clear as, absolutely clear. There's no fuzzy screen. The picture is clear as day. You just can't get there because he shows it to you. There's so many avenues that he has to work on you on the other side. There's a lot to be done, but we assume that we're ready. we can barely pass the tests that we're given every day, whatever character flaw area that God is testing you. We can't even pass these tests. We have to repent and ask for forgiveness 50 times per day because we keep failing tests, right? But we think that we think that we know everything that's on the other side. But see, God-given blessings are so much more grand than what we can even imagine. We have our own limited insight, right? Because we always discredit ourselves anyway on thinking we can achieve certain things. So it's almost like we have this idea of what we will do and how God will use us. And we're so confident in our gifts at a certain level. But when God starts opening doors, it's going to be much more grand than what you even know. So he's actually conditioning you now for those areas. This is why it feels as if certain things that God has you working on, it doesn't feel like it equates to what you're doing now. It's because he's preparing you for when you get there, right? So you may feel like, why is God calling you into counseling? Well, you prayed for a husband or a wife, and he said okay. He said okay. So now you're frustrated and trying to figure out, well, where's this woman? Why do I have to go to counseling when in reality you have me in a season of stillness? So in my mind, in this stillness, I'm just waiting for that door to open. I'm waiting to meet her. Like, what day am I going to open the door and run into her? Like, you have me in stillness. Okay, you're in stillness and you assume you're waiting for the door to open, and then one day God comes and convict you and say, okay, you're in stillness, now start therapy. And you're like, what? I'm supposed to be waiting for the door to open to this, that, and the third, but now you're convicting me to go to therapy. What does this have to do with the promise? You didn't even think you ever needed therapy. But God knows what you're going to be up against once he opens that door to that person, to that marriage. This person may have other demons and spirits you don't even know about. This person can have a whole family who's against you. There's a lot of things that God has to really, really build you for, but you don't know what all it entails once he opens that door. So many times God is trying to protect us, and most importantly, he wants to be sure that once you attain the blessing, you'll be able to sustain the blessing. Because let me just tell you something. Let me just tell you something, and I'm sure you already know this, but it's one thing to attain and another thing to sustain. If God opens the door and he gives you the blessings, wow, beautiful. Trust me, you're going to have your exciting moments. You're going to be celebrating. And after a while, that excitement will wear off. And now it's time to sustain the blessings. Now it's the warfare that's coming against it, right? People always think that people's lives are so easy, but they have no clue what it takes to sustain certain things. And so God have to really, really work on your character, especially if you have a lot of generational conditioning, generational curses, cycles, things like that. And you're the chosen one, so you're literally called to break certain cycles. You have a whole process to be able to sustain certain blessings because you've never seen it done before you. So there's a lot of moving parts. Keep knocking. Also, what can be very, very confusing is when you've been convicted throughout the process of getting ahead of God too many times. So what will happen is when God is ready for you, when God comes back to you to say, okay, now is the time, go knock again. Now is the time, go back here again. Now is the time, take a step here. If you're not careful and tapped in enough, you will feel like, well, I don't want to take the step because I'm getting ahead of God. Right? I've been convicted throughout this process. I've got thrown back in the wilderness for this very thing. So I don't want to take the step. But really God is telling you, okay, now is the time though. Take the step. Knock again. I've already worked things out. Just take the step. Get still. Get quiet if you're confused about that. Because if God is now ready for you to knock again, it's going to be, your spirit will feel light about it. Where before, when you were trying to knock or getting ahead of God, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of resistance. Kind of like a fuzzy screen on the TV. But if he's telling you to knock again, try this thing one more time because it's time. This is the season. You've done everything that I told you to do. Go knock again. There will be a peace in your spirit about it. You won't feel a conviction about it. Knock again. If this word is for you. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.